environment in any way, and that of course is being proposed right now. So there's a lot of attempts to raise taxes, but you know, the budget has been soaring, the deficits are soaring, but we were told not too long ago by our president that we had to get control of the budget, and he proposed a $17 billion cut. You know, $2 trillion increase, a $17 billion cut, and it's only a cut in what was already increased. And they put that stuff out there like we're supposed to believe this. Oh, yeah, I guess they're doing the best they can. But that is all ending. That is all ending. What is happening today is people are losing confidence in the droves. And the one place that I have been encouraged, the people who aren't buying into this are the young people who are inheriting this. So that's where I've been encouraged, and I still go to campuses, and we get large crowds out. We get young people to crowds like this, and I have a lot of young people coming through my office in Washington, high school kids and college kids, interested in the Constitution, interested in monetary policy, interested in freedom and responsibility. So I believe that the young people will be able to figure it out. And that's what we have to do. We really have to help people understand this, because it will not come quickly. You do have to educate. Now, the surprise to me, if I'd have been asked this before the campaign started last year, what I expected, what kind of response I would have expected, I would say probably about average, like I generally have. I get 30 people out here and there. But there were a lot of people out there that have already heard about Austrian economics and sound money. It was unbelievable. I mean, to see people, you know, and hear people talking about it, and knew about Mises and Hayek and all these wonderful books that have been around. The information has been out there, and it's so much easier, and this is probably the reason, it's much easier to get access to it through the internet. I struggled. I was curious enough, and I think that's the main thing we all ought to have, because we don't have all the answers, and that's what's wonderful about freedom. Since we don't have all the answers, we don't impose it on other people, but information is important to understand the system. But we have to be curious to try to figure it out, because I think there are some serious things to consider in environment. But you know, the marketplace, good principles of the market handles a lot of that as well, because you don't have a right to pollute your neighbor's property. You can't dump your garbage on your neighbor's property. You can't pollute people's water. You shouldn't pollute people's air. But it's done with property rights. It's not by international regulations and taxation and doing silly things and then not figuring out, is the earth really warming, or is it warming in one spot and getting cold in another spot, or is this just you know, part of a natural occurrences? And for people in Washington especially, if you challenge the status quo, the conventional wisdom about global warming, boy, you are painted as somebody from the very, very dark ages. But the truth is, it does deserve a lot of attention and a lot of study. But that is our job, is to make sure that we can answer these questions. But I don't have any hope at all with the economic bailout programs, the recovery program, on what's happening. They only know one thing. You know, they did diagnose it. They figured the deficits were too high and there was too much debt. So they came in, well, let's spend more money, let's run up the deficits even more, and let's print even more money, and let's regulate more. So they might have sensed a problem, but they're just doing more of the same thing. So I don't have any confidence at all, other than the fact that they will contribute to the demise of the dollar. But this past week we had some major conversations on the House floor dealing with torture. Now you'd think maybe the issue ought to be that, has our country been involved with torture? And I think a few of us saw some pictures a few years ago that it looked like we were involved with torture. And it looks like it didn't do us any good at all around the world. It did us a lot of harm. And I believe those individuals who have assessed it and said that that is a strong motivation for people to join the Al-Qaeda. Us being over there, us bombing their country, killing civilians, causing a lot of refugees, and then also torturing people. So if that is the case, the question is it legal? Well, no, it's not legal. It's illegal. It's illegal under our law. It's illegal under international law. Is it moral? Well, from my viewpoint, I think it's immoral. And does it do any good? There's no evidence that does any good whatsoever, even though there's some that would say, oh, no, you can't imagine how many terrorists that we have saved from coming here because we tortured people and got information. Now, I have a little group in Washington that comes to my office. It's called the Liberty Caucus of other members. And we had a speaker a couple weeks ago, Matthew Alexander. And he's written a book and it's called How to Break a Terrorist. And he has experience. He was in the Air Force, but he was trained in interrogation. And he did over 300 interrogations in Iraq. He was asked on numerous occasions by his superiors to torture. And he absolutely refused to do it. And he wrote a book and talked about this. And he says, and I believe him, that he got more information than any of any of our people that tortured the criminal, the so-called suspects and terrorists. So that I do believe. So there's every reason in the world. But is that what we were discussing this week about whether we should have an investigation to find out why we tortured and put this behind us? No, the debate was on what the CIA told Nancy Pelosi 4 years ago and who said what and what was in her notes. So the Republicans said, what we're going to do is we're going to demand an investigation of Pelosi's conversations and the CIA. Now that one I wouldn't have been invited to because that was just for the leadership. But we do get invited for top secret briefings about what's going on around the world. And I have a rule. I never go. Now there's two reasons I never go. First, you never learn a thing. And second, if you do go, all you hear is propaganda. So why go and listen to them? And of course, a lot of our members and some on our side were very sincere. They went to all this and listened to this, so many of those briefings, and they were convinced that Saddam Hussein was about to drop a nuclear weapon on Washington, D.C., and it was that kind of scare tactics. So, but that's what they want to do instead of maybe looking into it. So what happens in Washington when they deal with these subjects, it becomes very, very partisan. And there are days when I think it's almost deliberate because policies don't change. Here we are concentrating on this, so it diverts the attention from Guantanamo. All of a sudden the Democrats, we don't have enough money to close down Guantanamo. They have enough money. They sent money over to send troops into Pakistan or Afghanistan. No money was appropriated to go into Iraq. But the president didn't wait for the appropriation. He went and sent the troops to Iraq. Like there's not enough money to close down Guantanamo without a special appropriation. I mean, just the maintenance fees that you run, you could use it. So it's just a cop-out. So it's just a distraction. They get in there. I do think there's a real fight for power and control, but it is also a distraction from the real issue. Have we really talked about a change in our foreign policy? There's no change in our foreign policy. More money than ever, more threats to more people, and we're in every bit as much trouble as ever before. So there's a lot, though, that we should and could do, but under today's circumstances, I think we can't hold our breath. The fact that we're wondering about whether we should be over there, the argument is we'll fight them over there. We won't have to fight them over here. But the whole thing is is that doesn't add up at all.